Welcome. This is Cheating Tales Stories. Tell me where you're watching from. Have you ever seen someone push too far just to prove a point, only for it to backfire on them? Call me whatever you want. The story's what matters. When I first met Kalina, she was the kind of woman who made every man in the room turn his head. She was beautiful, confident, and had this playful edge that made you feel like she was always 2 steps ahead. We dated for 2 years before getting married, and for the most part, our relationship was good. But there was one thing. Kalina had this habit of testing me. She'd say something flirty to another man just to see if I'd react. I used to laugh it off, thinking it was harmless. She'd tell me, "If you're secure, it shouldn't bother you." And I believed her, until one day, it crossed a line I couldn't ignore. It started with a small party our mutual friends were throwing. I had just finished a huge project at work and wanted nothing more than to relax and spend the evening with her. But the moment we arrived, she seemed more interested in making an impression than spending time with me. Every time I looked across the room, she was leaning in just a little too close to some guy. Laughing in that way, I knew she reserved for when she wanted attention. The first man she chatted with, I ignored. The second one, I started to notice. By the third, I realized this wasn't random. She was scanning the room, finding people she thought would get under my skin. Then I saw him, Mark. Mark wasn't just anyone. He was a former friend of mine, someone I'd distanced myself from years ago, after finding out he had slept with another friend's wife. He was the kind of man who saw relationships as games to be won. And Kalina knew exactly how I felt about him. And there she was, sitting right beside him, her hand casually resting on his arm, looking at him like he was the most interesting man in the world. That was the moment I realized this wasn't just about harmless fun. This was a deliberate attempt to push me to the edge. I didn't confront her there. I didn't storm out. I didn't give her the reaction she wanted. Instead, I smiled, shook a few hands, and told her I'd see her at home. She didn't come home that night. The next morning, she waltzed in like nothing happened, holding a coffee cup and smiling. "Morning, babe," she said, leaning in to kiss me. I pulled back. "So, how was your night?" Her smile faltered for a second before she recovered. "Oh, just talking to friends. You left early, so I stayed a bit longer." I didn't say anything, but I could feel the shift in the air. She knew I didn't believe her. Over the next week, I became quiet. I stopped engaging in her little games. She'd post a picture of herself at a bar with male friends, and I wouldn't comment. She'd tell me she was going out with the girls, and I'd simply say, "Okay." I think that's when she panicked, because the next move she made was reckless. One Friday night, she dressed up like she was going to a high-end gala. When I asked where she was going, she said, "Just out with friends." I knew exactly who she was meeting. So instead of arguing, I simply told her to have fun. And as soon as she left, I made a few calls. A friend of mine worked at the same upscale lounge she was headed to. Within 30 minutes, I had pictures of her, sitting in a private booth with Mark, leaning in close, and at one point, kissing him. It hurt, more than I can describe. But that wasn't the moment I decided it was over. That came later. The next day, I didn't confront her. I started planning. I contacted a lawyer, gathered evidence, and quietly moved a large portion of my personal savings into an account she couldn't touch. I also went through our joint finances and saw something that made my blood run cold. She had been spending thousands over the past 2 months on shopping trips that didn't make sense. When I traced the transactions, I realized she'd been funding Mark, paying his rent, covering his bills, even buying him a new phone. 2 weeks later, I told her we needed to talk. We sat in the living room, and I slid a folder across the table. Inside were printed photos, bank statements, and a copy of the prenup she had signed before we got married. Her face went pale. "You've been spying on me?" she asked. "No," I said. "You've been trying to make me jealous. You succeeded, just not in the way you thought." The prenup was clear. Infidelity meant she got nothing. No house, no alimony, nothing. She tried to negotiate, tried to cry, even tried to blame me for neglecting her emotionally. But it didn't matter. Within a month, the divorce was finalized and she was out of the house. I heard through mutual friends that Mark dumped her a week after she moved in with him. She had sold her car to pay her rent, and eventually, she had to move back in with her parents. As for me, I didn't date for a long time. I needed to heal. But when I did, I found someone who didn't see love as a game. And the best part? I didn't have to make her jealous to know she cared. If you're listening to this right now, remember, Love built on manipulation will always crumble. Subscribe for more true cheating karma stories that will make you think twice about trust, loyalty, and the games people play.